Welcome back. Yes, indeed. Both gentlemen join us this morning. We've got Senator Babajide Omoworare, who was a former senior special assistant to the president, President Buhari, on National Assembly matters. Also, was a senator in the 7 to 8 Senate. He joins us virtually. We'll also have Laulu here with us, former presidential aide. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Okay, Senator, let me start with you. Let's get your... Okay, we'll get back to the Senator. Laulu, Democracy Day. Quite a number of things come to mind when people speak about democracy. To a lot of people, just a sing-song, because to them, what does it matter? But to others who are supposed to drill down and ensure that, look, what it really does mean for democracy across board, including our profession, perhaps there'll be questions. But for you, when you hear Democracy Day, commemorating Democracy Day, how does it sound to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a representation of our aspiration as a people, the kind of life that we want to live, the kind of government that we want to have, and the expectation that freedom will be the priority in this interrelationship between people and government. That is why Democracy Day is such a big deal. And the idea of having a Democracy Day on June 12 rather than May 29 is an excellent one.
But do you agree with those who say many of these persons who are in positions of power today, who talk about Democracy Day, if you look at how they themselves have conducted elections in their own states, it falls short of the standards expected from June 12th, for instance?
Yeah, without a doubt, there are quite ongoing questions about the legitimacy of our elections. But what I think is possible is that the more we enlarge the democratic space, the less of these problems that we have to deal with, which is why people like me have decided that one of what I will be doing going forward is to engage the public space and bring people to the realization of their power when they speak up, when they understand their responsibility and their roles. We've had too much partisanship and rather mediocre discussion of important issues. We need to elevate the discussion. We need to let the people be aware that they have power. Power belongs to them, regardless of what kind of constitution that you have. The power comes from the people. If the people know that and begin to behave like that, the leaders will have no choice but follow through.
What do you think is restricting people from understanding that? Because that is the most important thing. Is it institutional poverty? What's making people not understand how much power they have over their leaders? Yeah, poverty is in my view, poverty is one of the strongest factors, that limits people from understanding, first of all, who they are. Mystery and abject poverty, disease. These are the kinds of things that don't allow people to understand their purpose, who they are, what they can do, what they represent. And that is why we always say that, look, one of the things that government must do is to deal with the multidimensional poverty in this country. The reason why you have all this political chicanery in our country is because poverty has been weaponized. So to your question, very simply, it's poverty in my view. I mean, so is it then a stretch in many ways to say this was done on purpose, impoverishing the people? If I was a wicked politician, that's what I'd do. I'd make them poor mentally. I'd make sure that economically they're not able to take care of themselves. That way I can get my way. Yeah, well, but the split side of it is that everybody must also take responsibility for their lives, So you will always find politicians who will take that advantage, but you will always find a few who will also speak right and try to do what is right. So the choice is now left for the people to identify who is it that is advancing the public interest. The public interest is what is so critical. The Commonwealth, everything that we have in this country belongs to all of us, whether you are in government or you are asset of government. The indices that have put the people in this level of poverty, that has brought us to where we are right now, it hasn't changed. How do we expand the democratic space and get people to understand their powers if they really don't have any?
Well, so we need people in the political elite who really want to pursue public interest. Right now, we have too many people in the political class who are interested in what they get. So we have to populate that space with more people who have genuine public interest. And I tell you, there are a lot of them.
Get most of these Nigerians to be a part of the political space.
Absolutely.
And then start to change things from within.
From within, it's the only way, if you want to use peaceful means.
Well, else you find yourself in the gulag. But, what kind of steps, Mr. Saliu Lukman just spoke moments ago about how he thinks that political parties have not actually, in fact, his political party, the APC, have not lived up to the ideals of their founding fathers. He said they started right from the time of former President Buhari, as a matter of fact. And then he also did say, look, even if, by inference, what we glean from that is, even if you were to put in place a group of people who say, yeah, we want ideals, we are, democratic, once they get hold of power, they become a different animal. And so it then means, yes, of course, eternal vigilance is a price.
Yeah.
You have what you have to do to keep all of these things going. So I'm sure that maybe as you engage the public space, you have several mindsets and several things you always want to see play out when disinformation gets out there to the people, such that it could bring about at least a good flowing system.
Yeah.
So talk about some of those things which you'd like to see if and when the people do get disinformation that should liberate them.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's start with the political elite. Now, look at what has happened between 1999 and now. So we've had, I think, about 4 or 5. Actually, this is the 5th president that we've had since 1999. Now, we see what former General Olusegun Obasanjo is trying to do. He was there for 8 years. In my view, seems to be the most significant in terms of successes so far. But he couldn't, translate himself into a political leader of example. Because, the transition was very chaotic, and then he wanted to do a third term, which got, a splash in his face. So that has affected his own legitimacy in a sense. And now he seems to have realized, and now he's saying that, well, look, we don't have to follow this Western style. What he really needs to do is to concede that he did not transform the political leadership. He didn't show an example. And then we have, right after him, Yaradua, who seemed to be very forthright and wanted to be decisive, but because of his health, he died. And then, so it goes on and on. My point is that there will always be a judgment, quote unquote, a measurement. And, so if Obasanjo is regretting now, guess what will happen to all the other leaders if they don't do what is right when they are there? Because Obasanjo had all the opportunity in the world to do what is right in terms of empowering the people, in terms of empowering the political process. He did not. And that seems to be the key problem that you have. To your point, that the political process is composed of people who don't really want to pursue the public interest. So each of these leaders, they will be judged. President Buhari is being judged even by a member of his own party, Saliu Lukman, who said that he doesn't consider President Buhari a visionary leader. Now, how will President Buhari be feeling to be listening to that? So my point is that each of these leaders will be held accountable. The more we enlarge the space, they will think more of their legacy, I think. But if we don't speak out, if the people don't get empowered, then people will think, I'll just come, do my turn and go away. We need to begin to let them know that there will be consequences regarding your reputation and your legacy if you don't do what is right while in office.
Let's stretch that a bit further. His reputation. Former President Buhari, when he came in, as a matter of fact, lots of people will always attest to that. Several things appear to just take shape naturally, without him even moving a needle or lifting a finger. People, for months, and they thought, okay, because of his reputation preceding him, they thought it was going to be in a certain way, but alas, then the rest, they say, is history. What is it that makes certain persons, when they get into offices, and in spite of what people know them for, what they stand for, it doesn't, for the most part, seem to translate to society, to development, whatever it is that they stood for?
Yeah, well, several factors, at times is the capacity that they have, at times is the courage that they have or they don't have, at times is whether they have public interest more or private interest more, so it's a mixed bag of it.
How about people that surround them?
Yeah, well, it's even worse, because in many instances, look at what happened to President Buhari. I don't have any doubt that President Buhari has public interest. I watched him closely for 8 years. But the public interest that he have, he was not able to translate it, especially because of the people that surrounded him.
Some people say there's something off with the office itself. There's something happens when you go into.
Like what?
I don't know what it is. I mean, you've been in those corridors for longer than most people have. Is there something that happens? Because you're right. At the time when President Muhammadu Buhari came in, things just started happening. Everyone started getting in line because we're like, oh, yeah, he's here. He's going to same thing happened with President Bola Tinubu. Oh, the money man is here. The economy is going to change. There'll be money around. Everyone has their flavor.
Right.
But something happens when they get in. We're looking at this person, and then you're wondering throughout this person's presidency, what happened to him? Did someone hit him with a stick? What changed about this fellow? Is it the corridors of power? Is it that our systems in Nigeria do not enable you to, help the people? What's the actual issue here?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, Kayla, the individual must take the responsibility. Because yes, there are the kind of people that you surround yourself with. For instance, look at what happened during President Buhari. Now, during the campaign, we all knew that the guy who was the chief of staff, quote unquote, was the Colonel Ali, who became the customs chief. Now, you expect, as a matter of fact, he came into the villa with the president. He was already in the villa, just like all of us, even before we got our letters. But then, the situation changed. You had an Abba Kyari who did not participate in the election, who actually many people have said don't even believe that Buhari was going to win. Abba Kyari became the chief of staff, essentially caged the president, and the rest is history. So ultimately, it will have to be the person in charge. Why? How is it? You must be responsible for the people that you surround yourself with. I think this is the message that we're trying to also send to President Tinubu. You will be responsible for the people that you allow to cage you. Because guess what? At the end of 4 or 8 years, it's going to be your name. Just like the name of Buhari is being reflected upon now, it will be the name of Tinubu in 4 or 8 years. So the people who are in charge must take responsibility. They have to.
And from what is out there, in terms of, if you just go backtrack a bit, this president wants a good name for himself.
Yeah.
He always likes certain things wants to be associated with having done certain things. So it will be a huge ask if he doesn't live up to the billing. But how do they get feedback? Because even if you surround yourself with certain people, and then can they successfully cage them to the extent that everything you see is what they want you to see?
Well, so that is where courage comes in. It's not worth it to have as a leader somebody who does not have personal courage, the courage to be able to make the difficult choices, and the tough choices.
Like what? Subsidy removal?
Well, subsidy removal is indeed a courageous choice.
Subsidy return,
but it was carelessly done.
Subsidy return.
So yeah. I mean, you have to give. I mean, there's a credit to say that look, we have to stop this thing, but then there is more importance. It's greater how you sort it out. So it was done right. It was he said it that we're going to do what seems to be the right thing, but there was no plan about how to do it. So ultimately, it's about courage. The people that you surround yourself with will bring you some value, and they will also bring you some weaknesses. It's up to you to determine where is the value and where is the weakness. I have seen leaders who, once they surround themselves with people, they just go back and relax. And because those are the people they trust, those are the people that are calling the shots. Now, I don't believe that those leaders, when they leave government, I don't believe that they will not regret it, because they will have time to reflect. And that's why you see a lot of people saying stuff after they've left office, because now they've gotten the chance to reflect. And that is why we're talking to leaders currently, that look, do what is right when you have the opportunity now.
Bring him on. Good morning, Senator. Pardon me, I think we lost you for a while. We lost your connection.
I can hear you now.
Oh, fantastic. So can you go ahead then and talk to us about your impressions now, because there's a lot of conversation about Democracy Day, how it is for the average Nigerian out there. Some who think, well, not exactly how they thought it was going to be, because it has to be ultimately about the impacts, the economy, how they feel. Are they good or bad? What do you think?
Well, my perspective is that when a new government comes in, and as we've spent 1 year in government, there is need to put some things in place. And I think some tough decisions were made. Those decisions, the government did not have any choice. The government has made. So I'm of the perspective that all things being equal, we will see changes. I agree that things are tough. I agree that, there is very huge inflation, especially food inflation. And the federal government is trying its best. And I know there are a few things that should have been done. And I know those things will still be done. And I just want us to be hopeful, and things will be okay. A few things have been put in place, and I think these things should have been put in place a few months ago. For instance, we've been discussing local government restructuring. I think this should have been done from inception, but it's not too late. The fiscal stability that is being worked on is not too late, and I think we should just be hopeful, and things will get better.
So, Senator, about this local government autonomy, I mean, you've been a senator. You also advised the former president on National Assembly matters. Many always say politicians, or this crop of politicians, appear to be our problem because they seem to care for themselves and not necessarily the people. Now we've had a lot of governors say, look, there's nowhere in the world, according to them, where you have 3 tiers of government. No, it cannot work. But on the other hand, we've had the chairman of Governors Forum, Governor of Kwara State, subscribe wholly to the quest to ensure autonomy for local government. So are you optimistic that, look, this autonomy that is being sought will succeed or not?
I'm optimistic that autonomy will succeed, but, it's a lot of issues. The short question you've asked has a lot of issues that I may want to address in maybe 5 minutes. One, what is most ideal, what is most utopian is for power devolution to the regions or provinces or states, as the case may be, so that irrespective of the acronym we give it, once X amount is given to a particular state, the state can create 100 local governments, the state can create 10 local governments. Ideally, it should even be the state generating resources and sending money to the center, because the center is too powerful. Now, that is the situation we found ourselves. We found ourselves in a situation whereby there is Section 7 of the Constitution that talks about local government administration. Section 8 talks about creation of more local governments. Section 162 of the Constitution talks about revenue allocation and how money gets to the hands of the local government. What we've experienced since 1999 is that There is supposed to be a joint state-local government account. The federal government is supposed to put the money of the local government in that account in the state. The state is meant to have its own to eat, and that money is meant to go to local government, but that is not the case. I can speak for Lagos State. I know Lagos State government money gets in Ifakojai, where I represented when I was in Lagos House of Assembly. Over 6, 7, 8 roads are being done by local government at the moment. I represented Osun East in the Senate. I'm in Osun State as I'm talking to you. Local government in Osun State cannot afford to even clean the drainages, to clear the silt from the drainages, despite the fact that in the past 16 months, about 111.9 billion has been sent by federal government to the state. So what the federal government has gone to court to do is very simple. The law as it is, which is Latin parlance is called lex lata, let us even enforce it. We are not talking about amending the Constitution. 7th Senate, I was in the 7th and 8th Senate, and I know in the 7th Senate there was an attempt, and when I was presidential advisor, there was also to President Buhari on National Assembly matters, there was an attempt again to amend Section 162, but this will not enjoy 2/3 support from the states. It will go to the states, it will pass the National Assembly. What National Assembly wanted to do is to ensure that money gets to the hands of the local government. Don't forget that apart from 1979 Constitution and 1999 Constitution, there was 1989 Constitution that never came into effect because we had a little diarchy, and after the diarchy, the military took over again. So that Constitution actually recognized a third tier of governance. It is theoretical and it is mute if we start arguing about whether there are 2 tiers of government or there are 3 tiers of government. So the governor of Kwara State may be right. If I have my way, we go back to the provinces, the regions, the states, whatever appellation we may give it, let them make their resources and let them now be the ones sending X amount to federal government. If they like, let them have 100 local governments. If they like, let them have 10 local governments. It depends. I was opportune to study in a particular area in Montana, in America, to do a study about the local government administration. It is so different. They have a council of 6 members. There are 3 supervisors, but there is an incumbent chairman of the council. The former chairman is forced to come back to council. An election is done. In 2 years' time, the person that will take over in 2 years' time is also in council. So election is done ahead. Election is done a fortiori. So the person knows that I'm coming in 2 years' time to take over from this guy. The person that was the previous one is also there in council. It is their unique system of government. It is federalism. We don't have to run in Osun State the same system of local government like they run in Borno State or like they run in Edo State or like they run in Sokoto State or like they run in Lagos State. But the way we found ourselves now, I think the federal government has taken the right cue.
Well,
federal government
Senator,
has gone to court.
I know that, pardon me to jump in, we're going to be winding down now. But what about those who say, look, if we don't amend that section 162, we won't even scratch the surface of autonomy for local governments?
How do you want to amend section 162 when the governor is the one that has paid the INEC form for the INEC form of the House of Assembly member? The House of Assemblies will not, in the ninth National Assembly, there was an effort to amend section 162. Out of all the sections that went to the states, section 162 was negatived. Under section 9, that requires 2/3 of the states to approve it. I can assure you again, if National Assembly does the same thing, it will go to the states, it will come back negatived. And I'm not saying it's not all the states that are guilty of this, but most of the states are guilty of it. The governor takes the money, statutory allocation coming to him. The governor takes the money for the local government coming to him. The governor takes the palliative coming to him. The governor takes NG fund coming to him. The governor takes internally generated revenue coming to him, and so on and so forth. So I sincerely do not see it will pass in National Assembly. But how do we ensure? I think we have to sit down and find out how to ensure that if it passes in the National Assembly, we will get 2/3 support of state houses of assembly.
All right, Senator.
Otherwise, we are just wasting our time.
Well, unfortunately, we have to let it go at that point. But I'm sure we'll be able to work out something and have a lot more expansive conversation about all of these issues. Thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's wind down on this as well. In fact, what do we even expect from inside sources?
Yeah, so tomorrow, in commemoration of the Democracy Day, we are bringing the only notable general who resigned from the military after the annulment of the June 12 election in 1993, Major General Ishola Williams. Is our guest tomorrow on Inside Sources, and he speaks a lot about democracy and about the responsibility of the Nigerian people to make things happen. Fantastic,
and he's also been talking about corruption over the years, several books he's written. So that should be an interesting one. But on the final shot on this one, the role of the people. Do we actually realize that it's a huge ask?
It is.
As a matter of fact.
It is a huge ask. And, you know, one of the things that he said that we are going to be hearing a lot more about tomorrow is that there is so much focus about governance, about people, political elites. Then what about the responsibility of the people? How do we prepare the people to understand their responsibility and carry out their responsibility? If power comes from them, how is it that they are just like sitting ducks in this game of democracy?
Well, should be an interesting watch. Thank you very much indeed for coming on today. Laulu Akonde, former presidential aide. And that is it from us today. We'll see you. Wow, I thought it was Friday. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain. Goodbye.
Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Well, I understand, but Chamberlain, don't worry. You're still coming to work tomorrow. Amaya Makinde, good morning. Good morning and have a wonderful day.